Hello everyone and welcome back to our course. In this lecture, we are going to begin building our first Dash app. Here I am in Google Colab, which you can access at colab.research.google.com. And here is where I can code in Python to build my Dash app. You could also use any code editor you wish. All right, so we'll begin by installing Dash. And here in Google Colab, to access the console, we use an exclamation mark. But if you're not using Google Colab, then you can just access the terminal or the command line. And then we're going to call pip install to install a new dependency into the project. And I'm going to install Jupyter Dash because I'm here in Google Colab, which creates what's known as a Jupyter notebook for online Python development, just coding in Python online. But if you're not using Google Colab, if you're using an offline code editor, then you'll want to just pip install Dash instead of Jupyter Dash. You see, Jupyter Dash was created by Dash to enable Dash to work on Jupyter notebooks like Google Colab. All right, then we can run this code cell, and we're going to install Jupyter Dash into this project. Here we'll see these messages collecting Jupyter Dash, collecting Dash as well, because Jupyter Dash is just an extension of regular Dash. And you'll collect all the required Dash components that are part of Dash. A lot of the requirements for Dash are already satisfied because we're using Google Colab. And then at the very end of the cell, you'll get the message successfully built Dash and successfully installed all of these different dependencies, Dash components, Dash render, and C2 HTML, etc. And you can read all of those if you're interested. Just copy that line and paste it in here. You'll see successfully installed and C2 HTML, Dash core components, Dash HTML components, Dash render, Dash table, Flask, compress, and Jupyter Dash. And that is all been installed thanks to our one line here, pip install Jupyter Dash. All right, so that is going to install everything we need to start building Dash here in Google Colab. All right, awesome. Next up, now that we have installed Jupyter Dash, I'm going to add a new code cell, and I'm going to import it into our project. So from Jupyter Dash, I'm going to import the class Jupyter Dash. We can access this Jupyter_Dash object because we just installed it. And from there, we have to import whatever we want to use. So in my case, I'm importing Jupyter Dash. If you are not using a Jupyter notebook like Google Colab, then you would just import Dash from the Dash module. So it would look slightly different. But the functionality is all the same. You'll just have some minor differences between what you need to use Jupyter Dash versus regular Dash. All right. As well, next up, we have to import Dash core components. So I'm going to import Dash core components, and that is one of the dependencies that we just installed. Remember, we saw it here, Dash core components. So we're going to put that to use in this project. As well, we're going to put to use Dash HTML components, and that is all that we'll need for now. Awesome. Okay. Next up, I am going to start by creating a new Jupyter Dash app. So I'm going to create a variable named app, and I am going to call Jupyter Dash, and I'm going to pass in __name __, which will be compiled to main when you run the code cell. So this is how you create a new Jupyter Dash instance. Now, if you're not using Google Colab or Jupyter Dash, if you're just using regular Dash, then you would just call app equals dash.dash __, name __. So you would just, instead of using Jupyter Dash, you would grab the Dash module and you'd use the Dash class instead of Jupyter Dash. They both achieve the same thing, just slightly different ways of calling that. So do take note of that. For the purposes of a beginner and following along with this course, I definitely recommend using Google Colab because you can easily follow along. All right, as well, we're going to need the Plotly Express module. This will allow us to build figures or graphs. Plotly Express is part of Plotly, which itself is part of Matplotlib, and it will help you build graphs, figures, charts, which is very commonly done with Dash apps, because often Dash apps are built for showing data science projects or machine learning projects, and therefore you want to be able to show charts and graphs. So let's as well import plotly.express, and typically it's usually imported as px for short, Plotly Express. Okay, then I am going to create a new data frame here using plotlyexpress.data.tips. All right, so we're going to set that up. This will allow us to have some data for our project. Okay, then we can call print app to see what we have created. Let's run this code cell, and this is going to import all the required libraries here. It's going to create a data frame and an app. And the result we get is Jupyter-app.Jupyter-object. So this means we successfully created an object that is of type Jupyter- at this memory address. Awesome. Okay, that's exactly what we wanted. Next up, let's add another code cell. And let's give our app a layout. And as well, we're going to put a graph into that layout. So we are going to work on that coming up in the next lecture, where we're going to build out a graph and show some data. We can already start running the app though. We can call app.run_server. This will launch the app in a new tab. You can also set the mode to equal inline if you want to run the app right here in your project. But you'll get this message, no layout exception. The layout was none at the time that run server was called. Make sure to set the layout attribute before running the server. So you will want to set app.layout first. Okay, so I am going to just cut this. And before I call app.runServer, I'm going to set app.layout. And what we're going to do is use HTML to create a new element, such as a div. Then we can grab html.h1 and put in some text here, in h1. And I'm going to put in some text here, my-app. Okay, so now we have app.layout, and we are setting the layout property of our dash app. We're using html.div, and we are creating a new heading 1. Now you may be wondering, where is HTML coming from? Well, HTML is actually dash HTML components. So let's import that as HTML. This is how we can render HTML components in a dash app. We have this module, dash HTML components, exactly for that. So you can look in the documentation for dash HTML components to see all the different components, but basically you can create any type of HTML component you want. For example, here I've created a div, and then inside of that div, I've created a heading 1, meaning the largest heading type. Now, let's see, if I run this app, I am going to get, okay, HTML is not defined. That's just because if you change something in the previous code cell, you have to rerun that code cell again before you can rerun the second code cell. All right, so make sure you do that. Great, then we have set app.layout, and we've set it to equal div.html. We'll also get this message that our address was already in use. So because I already launched my server once and I got the error, I'm going to just set runtime, and I'm going to set factory restart runtime. And I'm also going to then change the GPU. But basically, factory reset runtime, it clears your whole code. So you'll have to run everything again. And we do that in order to clear that server. As well, you can change the runtime type and add a hardware accelerator. The code cells will run faster. Then you can hit runtime run all, and that's going to rerun all of our cells again. All right, this time they're running faster because I have my GPU enabled. There we go. Okay, we're starting from the top here. We are installing Dash again. Then we're creating our Jupyter app, and finally we're running my Dash app. And look at that. Now we have this heading 1, my Dash app. So keep those few things in mind. You have to set app.layout before you can run a server. Also, if you make a change in a previous code cell, you have to run that code cell if you want the changes to be applied, because each code cell is run as an individual block, but it can use variables in code cells above. And also, if you run the server one time, but then it doesn't run, it crashes, you will have to often go to runtime and factory reset the runtime. That's going to clear the server. Otherwise, you'll get that message that we saw, which said that the port was unavailable because it was currently in use, because the server was running. Okay, and here we go. Now we can see we have our first dash app. It says my dash app. We can put in other HTML elements as well. For example, we could put html.p and we could put in paragraph as the string. Now if I run this code cell again, look at that. I have my dash app and I have paragraph. Okay, and any type of HTML element you want, you can add to your app, to your dash app. That is exactly what this dash HTML components is for. Awesome. Okay, that was a quick win of how you can launch your first dash app right here in Google Colab. Next up, we are going to learn how we can build a graph with data in our app, because that is commonly what you'll see dash apps being used for. Dash apps can build not just regular apps, but also data science visualization projects and machine learning presentations. So you can show off the results of all of your projects. Join me in the next lecture where we will add a graph to our app.